Alright, what's going on guys? It's Almond. Welcome back to another Wizard101 video. In today's video, we're going to be going over the patch notes once again, but this time it's the ones for September 22nd, 2022. And there's some actually good patch notes in here, surprisingly. And there's still some bad things about raids that they still haven't fixed, but we'll be going over all the patch notes. And there's also a new KI code. It should be along the lines, if I remember, and I will put it on screen as well. If you have the code, or if you haven't used the code, I am here. I'll even put it on screen. It should give you 3 elemental Azoth. Highly recommend, very highly recommend if you're into guilds, or if you have multiple accounts. Make sure you guys redeem this and donate it to your guild, because if you think about it, each elemental Azoth is like 8, and if you have 3, that's like 24. And if you do that like across like 4 characters, you guys can even do the math more, but it's very beneficial. 100% very beneficial. So even if you're not into raids, or just just in general, I'd say 100% redeem this code and it will help out in the long run for sure. So there's that for the code. Now let's actually get into the patch notes. So when it comes to the actual patch notes, we have some stuff for guilds, some quest and combat, some just regular old patches. Then we have some PvP changes that I want to get into. Since I'm playing a little bit of PvP, hopefully, I might get a gist of some of these PvP patch notes. But just, keep in mind, I don't PvP like every day. I've only done like 5 matches. So, cut me some slack when it comes to me talking about the PvP changes. But let's get into the guild stuff. First thing to note, players can no longer respawn a mob with a dungeon recall in the guild house. I've never had that issue out of all the runs I've done, so I didn't even know this was a thing. Maybe people have encountered it, or if some people in other guilds have encountered it for sure, but I don't think I've ever had that issue. So who knows, at least it's fixed, all right? Character collisions and textured issues in the guild house were fixed. So I have had some issues with character collision and texture issues, where if you were placing down stuff with castle magic and you do some stuff, for some reason it bugs out the castle magic. For some reason you can actually go through certain items that you're not supposed to. Just in general, like a lot of bugs in castle magic, and just in the houses in general for the guilds. Definitely will probably make a video on some of the bugs just so it catches some attention, but there is a lot of bugs though, 100% in guilds. They also fixed some displayers on various guild crafters, so I'm assuming this regards the numbers, because the percentages are completely inaccurate. Because if you just max out all the Azoth like on the portal, for some reason it jumps up like a lot, but they don't calculate that like each elemental or ice Azoth, or school specific Azoth of course, costs even more Azoth within that. So I'm assuming that's the displayers for that, unless it's certain other things, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be that. And then the most notable thing for the guilds, which is kind of annoying, the battle gate is still disabled. We'll let you know it's back. So the gate has been disabled for a while now. Honestly, I feel like they should have waited on guilds, or honestly, it should have been like this since the first day. I think the portal should have been disabled for at least a month, just so people can prep and unlock other things in the guild. Because I have my own guild, everyone knows about this, and I'm also in Ferric's guild at the moment. So I'm like learning about raids through him and other people in his guild. But from my experience of raids, I'll probably make a whole separate video on it, but yeah, no one's farming Azoth, I'll tell you that. The only people that are farming Azoth are people who actually want to open the gate, or if you're just trying to unlock everything. So like, for example, like my guild, we're just trying to unlock all the islands first, and then we'll use whatever crafters or portals or whatever it may be, because I just want to have the max housing for my guild. Then we can just decorate whatever, and then from there go into the miscellaneous stuff like the housing crafter, PvP crafter, all the other stuff, right? But the main thing for me is just unlocking everything. Some people don't want to do that. Some people just only want to unlock the portals, and then they want to unlock everything else. I'm the complete opposite. So sucks though, gate is disabled, but I mean, this is honestly fine with me, because it gives me time to either prep for raids, to do actual other things in guilds, use the whole week. If, for example, if raids were out right now, people would be kind of mad, because there's the benefit going on, there's every single benefit going on, and there's membership out right now for free-to-play players for a whole week. And if there was portals right now, I mean, I'll be honest, I think a lot of people would be kind of annoyed, because they're kind of like toss up between what to do. So still, I'm glad that it's disabled, but I think it should have been disabled since it came out, and then give more time to players to actually farm and unlock other things for guilds, instead of people only just focusing on the portal, which is kind of screwed up stuff, but hey, that's just my opinion. So that's it for the guild parts of the patch notes. Now let's get into like some various like miscellaneous changes. Like most notable one in my opinion is they've been fixing the rounding issue that's been happening on players' client. So I've had this happen multiple times, whether it be in raids, whether it be me doing Hall of Heroes. But if you had an aura for some reason, and the calculating for damage is completely wrong, it'll show that you killed the enemy, and it'll show like the number looks like you killed the enemy, but it's just client side and you didn't kill the enemy, and you're like, oh, why is the guy still alive? You know, they have HP left clearly, or something like that. But that's just mainly because the rounding error with auras, which hopefully it fixes it. But they said let us know if it still happens. So I'm praying that this rounding issue goes away, because it is kind of annoying as a person who grinds a lot of stuff in the game. They fixed some quest called Mything Link, because for some reason it causes a stuck loading screen. I'm surprised they haven't fixed the issue for Shiraki Temple. If you ever go to the Plague Oni, for some reason you get stuck on the loading screen for like 30 seconds or maybe for like a minute, depending on your PC. So I'm hoping that gets fixed. I might send it to one of the devs and see if they can get that fixed, but for some reason that's an ongoing issue. It's been an ongoing issue for years and they just never touched it, so who knows. They also fixed the inevitable betrayal quest for Karlaka Night Spinner. Should appear as expected. Don't know what that is for, but there you go. Another notable thing is they prevented players from teleporting to the final fight in Unforgiven Dead Gauntlet. I didn't even know you can teleport to the final fight in Unforgive Gauntlet, because I only do the mob fights and then just don't do the rest of the dungeon. I can see why you do the whole dungeon, because if you want to farm just the gear, like the Unforgiven gear for stats, or I mean the Highlander gear, I guess. So I guess they fixed that, but I don't know how big of a drastic change that is, because if I guess just having one person run through and they're just teleporting at the end. So I guess if you go through 4 different instances and have people just teleport to each other, like how people do it for Trash Boss, they probably were doing some sort of thing like that, but I guess that's patched. Now we got some miscellaneous changes, then we'll go into the PvP changes. Any level gear once again provides a small stat bonus. Don't know what that corresponds. Fixed an issue where players sat incorrectly on the park bench housing item. So I actually noticed this before. I was going through housing tours with somebody, and within that instance we saw a park bench, and for some reason it puts you the other way around. Don't know why. I thought that was intended for some reason, but later down the line we figured out it's just not intended. So I'm assuming that's the issue. They fixed various gear animations for characters. I'm hoping that includes the samurai armor on my fire, because his hand keeps glitching out of his whole entire arm. I don't know why, and it's been like that from ever since that gear came out, so hopefully that's get fixed. Fall Scroll of Fortune 1505 point reward should now give the Marleybone balloon card. If we're going towards that, I guess let's go to 1505. Where is it? Right here, I think. No, actually right here. I know some people have this already. There was some issues with this and it wasn't giving it to them, so now if you guys haven't, you guys can definitely get this now. I'm actually doing this Scroll of Fortune for some reason. I don't know why. Now let's get into the PvP changes. So I'm gonna try to explain this as best as I can, but like I said, cut me some slack if I don't know too much about PvP. So Decathlon decks, you are now no longer able to use them in lower level leagues. That includes Master, Legendary, and Exalted. They only work for max leagues. This to me is a big change, because I remember when first Decathlon decks came out and there was low level PvP, if you didn't have basically a maxed out Decathlon deck, you basically lost every match. So I don't know how that big of a change is when it comes to the leagues, because I'm still understanding the leagues for Master, Legendary, and Exalted, so I have no clue if people are actually using those decks. But they do give a lot of stuff. They give you 3 jewel sockets, and they also give you a lot of TC space. So if you're just focusing on TCs, I can see why they would be broken for Master and Legendary. Don't understand too much for Exalted, because at that point, wouldn't people just craft the Darkmoor deck and call it a day? Don't know, but that's just my thought process. But I guess the Decathlon decks are no longer viable for PvP. I would assume so. They fixed the troll spell limit again. So what they're just doing for now is, a lot of people have been complaining about the troll spellments for the longest, because it basically hits and then summons a minion, which is kind of busted. So for that reasoning, they're actually setting it to no PvP. So now you can't use that anymore for PvP for now. Well, because they're gonna try to reassess the situation and see what they can do to make that spell still viable without having it being super busted. So because at that point, I feel like a lot of people are rocking myth masteries, and out of the couple matches I've seen from PvP, a lot of people have been rocking myth masteries and then having troll spellements on other characters just to hit with a hidden minion essentially. They also adjusted into some shadow rating changes. We made some adjustments to the shadow gauge settings, so that should both increase the value of the highest shadow rating and reduce some RNG of the shadow gauge to fill. It should be noted by the far the greatest impact on who will receive the first shadow pip is and has always been which player gets the first action versus which player generates the first fill on their shadow gauge. We're exploring some long-term code solutions to minimize this first turn effect in order to deliver a more significant shadow pip advantage to players with the highest shadow rating. So hopefully shadow rating actually matters down the line to a certain extent, and instead of it just being quote-unquote first. So that's some changes for PvP. And then the last major change for PvP is D-Lance. So I actually use D-Lance on my death pet, and I have for like the past couple matches. I've gone D-Lance to cast once out of the 3 or 4 matches I have done on my death, and I can see why it does create a lot of tempo. So they're trying to adjust the cast rates for D-Lance to reduce the ability to create dramatic gains in match tempo, particularly later turns of the match. So hopefully D-Lance isn't as OP, and maybe people might be socking some other stuff instead of D-Lance. But at the end of the day, it's a pay-to-win jewel. You can only get it to Kroger, and regardless, if it's in the scroll for example, which it hasn't came back in the scroll to my knowledge, it's still pay-to-win because you have to spend 7.5k crowns on the scroll. So it's pay-to-win stuff is always going to be winning in PvP. Don't know if there will be a world where it's not pay to win, unless they put a pay to win jewel. What they could do, honestly, is put the Kroger jewels in the PvP arena shop and just make it so it's only for PvP, so people can't use like D-Lance in PvE, for example, or like something like that, because then it just ruins the point. Then it won't be as you know, annoying. But that's just a thought. I don't know too much about PvP and how dramatic that would change the meta, but I feel like they might as well just do that at that point, right? Maybe that's just me. But those are all the changes for this recent patch note. Hopefully you guys got a gist of everything I talked about. The notable things, which is the gate, in my opinion, that still haven't fixed. Also the D-Lance change for PvP, and some collision stuff regarding, I guess, the raids or raid/guilds. But also keep in mind, guys, even though I talked about all the patch notes, there is still some patch notes that are usually hidden. I mean, usually, because I'm kind of used to this now. I have to explain this in every patch note video I've done so far. Even though these are all the ones that are listed, there tend to be some changes to bosses usually, and they won't put them in the patch notes. A great example is when I did the Celestian Key boss. Celestian Key boss is now patched. You can't do the strat where you do like mass feint and then you kill all the many enemies. You can't really do that anymore. And it was nowhere listed in the patch notes. So it's like, keep those in mind. There is probably some stuff. I'll try to explore some stuff in my own time, but I've just been caught up with so many things. On top of that, I'm like really sick right now making this video, and I'm farming Azoth at the same time in a little bit. So many things going on right now when it comes to IRL and in-game that I have to take care of. So no streams at the moment, but I'm still gonna keep trying to upload as much as I can. And people have been pushing me to upload, which I mean, honestly, I really appreciate that. And yeah, so that's it for the patch notes. But like I said, keep in mind there might be some other patch notes that aren't listed on here, and I'll probably, if I find some, I'll toss it in the comments below. If I don't, then yeah, that's the basic explanation. But if you guys haven't, make sure you redeem the code I am here. You'll get 3 elemental Azoth for your guild, and I'll help out a lot of people, so definitely do that. So hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that type of stuff, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys.